There are so many things to say, so we'll break it down into two parts. One, things related to architecture, and two, the paintings and statues that will take us all the way back to the 17th century.
The small shrine is where you'll find the oldest church in Quebec, especially because, unlike the others, it didn't burn down, thanks to the stone from the South Shore.
Local people have used the term small shrine since the 19th century to designate a space for prayer that's small but where faith is great.
The term small shrine has been used in Cap de la Madeleine since at least 1891 to designate the former parish church built in 1720, which became the Chapel of the Rosary in 1880.
The architecture is of French classical inspiration, but it's a type of parochial architecture that's specific to Quebec.
Because it's adapted to the local climate and conditions, including our winters.
It's also due to the availability of manpower and financial resources.
And that's why it's modest, which is in fact very representative of our old rural churches.
The period when this church was built was marked by a desire to design more simple churches by simply relying on the skills of craftsmen.
For example, the one built in 1661 at the St. Mary Fiefdom, which we talk about a lot on the Origins cassette, is shaped like a cross, like a crucifix.
With side chapels and a bell tower at the transept, while the one built in 1720, which is to say the small shrine, has an elongated configuration with a bell tower on the front.
That correction was made after 1700 by the contractor architect Jean-Baptiste Mailloux. He modified the nave by turning it into a semicircular heart.
And he did that without a plan, simply by relying on the skills of people. The choir was originally divided in two. The high altar was set against a partition wall with the sacristy located behind it.
In 1762, a sacristy was attached to the church. It was enlarged in 1817 and replaced in 1845 with the current one.
A bell cast in 1713, called Mary Magdalene, used to hang in the steeple.
In 1907, it was replaced by the bell that's there now. The old bell is displayed in the museum.
The small shrine's current annex was built in 1973. It was built with stones from the third church, the one that was linked to the 1879 Bridge of Roses. The pews are also from the third church.
But now Rama will head inside to tell you about the paintings, the statues, the high altar, and other works of art.
We won't make too much noise to avoid disturbing people who might be praying and meditating inside.
For nearly 200 years, the interior was sparsely decorated. However, in 1720, there was a large painting that represented a repentant St. Mary Magdalene.
It was placed above the high altar, but it was moved in 1880 to make way for a painting of the Rosary, and then for the statue of Our Lady of the Cape in 1888.
It's an oil-on-canvas painting attributed to the artist Jean Jacques, also known as the Blonde One.
He was from Brussels and emigrated to New France in 1712. He settled in Montreal when he was 25 years old,
where he married Catherine Chrétienne Guimau, also known as Lalande. The couple then settled in Trois-Rivières.
He was a sculptor, and he made a few of the statues that are in some churches.
However, 2 or 3 paintings are attributed to him as well, but we're not really sure. He may have imported them.
Those paintings depicted a repenting Mary Magdalene, as well as a Madonna and Child.
And Saint Anthony of Padua, my favorite one, which has helped me time and time again to find my keys.
I learned that the paintings of the Madonna and Child and the repentant Mary Magdalene were in the small shrine as early as 1720.
And that the painting of Saint Anthony of Padua, not that it's been lost, was for a church in Chambly.
But the painting of the Madonna disappeared. The last photos date back to around 1948-1950, and Saint Anthony of Padua didn't help us to find it.
It's worth knowing that Mary Magdalene has been the symbol of penance since the 6th century, through her association with the anonymous sinners of the Gospels.
The painting depicts her with tears on her cheeks.
But in a dramatic turn of events following Vatican II in 1965, the Catholic Church abandoned that position. Mary Magdalene became the apostle of apostles, as requested by Pope Francis.
That's normal. She followed Jesus until his last days. She witnessed the crucifixion, the entombment, and she was the first to witness the empty tomb.
And most importantly, she was the first to witness the resurrection of Christ. That's quite something.
The curved painting...
Hey, I'm the expert. I'm the one who studied art history.
Ooh, pardon me, Miss Constance. Go ahead.
And so, Grandma, the curved painting in the upper section depicts Mary Magdalene kneeling on a mat, eyes raised to the sky, hands clasped, with a pot of perfume at her feet.
And 3 cherubs.
Who seemed to open a cloud above Mary Magdalene, while a skull, a whip, and an open book lie at her side. The painting has a wood frame that's decorated with golden flowers and leaves.
In 1807, Bishop Plessis ordered that the painting of St. Mary Magdalene be made more compliant with the rules of modesty.
Right away, in fact, as soon as a painter could be found to cover the saint's right shoulder by adding hair. Cover that shoulder that I cannot behold.
And you, Madam Expert, what do you have to say about the painting of Our Lady of the Rosary, besides the fact that it adorns the chapel of the small shrine?
It's an oil on canvas painting depicting Mary and the child Jesus with St. Dominic and St. Catherine of Siena by a great unknown artist.
Another great mystery of faith.
But restoration of the painting made it possible to find initials on the lower left corner. The first letter seems to be a P and an L and then a B.
An artist by the name of PLB.
Or LPB. Perhaps it was the work of 2 painters, LP and PB. Brothers? Cousin? A father and a son company? There's nothing at all in the archives.
Is there anything that we know for sure?
The painting was restored in 1888 by Éléonore Boisvert, the second wife of painter Adolphe Roux. We can assume that it was then that Mary's dress was touched up with orange paint.
I think Grandma told me that it had been touched up in 2002.
Yes, indeed. It was again touched up in 2002 at the Ville-Marie Ink Studio in Montreal. The conservators think that the Mary Magdalene and Rosary paintings came from France and that they were from 2 different artists.
Oh, that would explain why the child Jesus was probably painted by the master's student and St. Catherine by the master himself, which would explain why it's the best part of the painting.
Ooh, you read my notes.
The painting was located in the Confraternities Chapel in the small shrine's transept until 1888.
But after construction of the 3rd church, the painting was placed above the high altar to replace the one depicting Mary Magdalene, at the very moment when the small shrine became the chapel of the Holy Rosary.
It stayed there until 1888 when the statue of Our Lady of the Cape was placed above the high altar. Today, the painting is behind St. Joseph in the small shrine.
I know, Grandma. We often talk about the high altar, but it's a work of art in its own right.
One of the oldest sculptures in the shrine.
It's carved in wood and covered with white and gold paint. One part of the altar was built in the 17th century, while the other part was completed in the 20th century.
An altar consists of 2 parts. The lower part, called the sepulchrum, and the upper part, above the sepulchrum, is called the tabernacle, which consists of the reserved Eucharist and the gradine.
The shrine's tabernacle is really beautiful. It's made of oak. Its decor is a miniature altarpiece in itself, designed to highlight the reserved Eucharist.
It's the oldest part of the shrine's high altar, said to have been carved in France and brought here by the Jesuits, who gave it to the parish council sometime around 1700.
If, and I mean if that's the case, it would have been in the 1661 church, before being transferred to the 1720 church, which, as we know, became the small shrine.
So, we might speculate that it might be even older than we think, because it could have been placed in Pierre Boucher's chapel from 1659 to 1661.
That would make it the oldest tabernacle in Quebec. But it's important to say that the lower part of the tabernacle was modified in 1946 to receive a metal casing to serve as a new Eucharistic reserve.
With a view to making the whole thing fireproof.
This configuration represents a genuine treatise on religious history. The two low reliefs depict Mary's Annunciation. The one on the left shows Mary kneeling at her prayer stool,
while the one on the right depicts the angel Gabriel with a dove above him.
The four statuettes were added around 1925 and 1927.
Those in the center, the two of them, represent the Good Shepherd, Jesus, and the Lamb, and underneath it, the Virgin and Child.
Two very old works, probably made by different people. On either side are the statuettes of Saint Pius V to the left,
and Saint Dominic on the right, who can be recognized by his lily and his books. He founded the Dominican order.
Okay, you really read my notes. Grandma, don't you think he's becoming brilliant? Just like that, in one fell swoop. It's not divine knowledge.
Hey, all right. I also read that in 1208, the Virgin Mary is said to have appeared to him under the name of Our Lady of the Rosary. As for Pope Pius V, who can be recognized by his cap and rosary, he's behind the creation of the Feast of Our Lady of the Rosary on October 7th.
On my birthday. I hope you'll pray for me. But you probably haven't read anything about the sepulchrum, because its origins aren't recorded in the archives. All we know is that in 1893, it was just a kind of box that was replaced by a carved and gilded oak altar, which included a reliquary shrine.
In general, a shrine means a reliquary containing the body of a saint, or sometimes even two or three if the saints were martyred together. It's therefore a sort of coffin reliquary.
In 1922, that sepulchrum was replaced by another one that was built by Brother Saint-Onge.
And, in a dramatic turn of events 5 years later, the sepulchrum was again replaced according to the plans drawn by the architect Gascon, who claimed that it would be a contrast. The 1922 sepulchrum was donated to the St. Lazarus Church.
However, in another dramatic turn of events, in 1946, the sepulchrum was again replaced, this time by the current curved sepulchrum, which was built by a sculptor named Georges Trudel de Saint-Romuald.
But you can see, and it's in your scrapbook, Grandma, the 1927 sepulchrum is in the kiosk at the Votive Candle Pavilion.
And now, Grandma, we're going to take a short break before we chat about the statue of Our Lady of the Cape.